Welcome to Pathways to Greatness, the show where faith meets focus and potential becomes purpose. I'm your host, Jeff Forrester, mental performance coach, speaker, and believer that greatness begins within. Each episode, we'll uncover the biblical principles, mindset strategies, and daily disciplines that help student athletes, parents, and leaders just like you walk boldly in their calling. Let's step onto the path that leads to true greatness, God's way. Hey, welcome back to Pathways to Greatness podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Forrester, and today's message is around consistency. And I decided to do consistency for a couple of reasons. One is it's something that challenges everybody over and over. No joke. It consistently challenges us. And where it really came about was I started this morning negotiating with myself that it would be okay to miss a week in recording. Like I said, I've had some challenges getting people scheduled. I have people on the schedule, and then potentially in the schedule, it's just getting them locked into a date. So I know that they're busy. So it's okay. I also think God is giving me space to have these thoughts and share them with you and have these conversations. I know it's one-sided on here, which is kind of good, but also I don't like to always do all the talking, but for these episodes, I have to. So feel free to talk to the TV if you're watching this, or to your phone or to the radio or whatever, wherever you're listening to these. So today's around consistency and really the hidden power behind greatness. And like I said, as I started negotiating with myself that it would be okay to miss a day, that worried me. It worried me because I shouldn't negotiate with those things. I had started this podcast with the idea of releasing one a week. And it's not overly complicated in doing it once a week, primarily because I can do these short episodes and get them done pretty quick. But it started worrying me because it was that negotiation process. And I know me, that if I would have given in to today, meaning that this week, I'll just miss this week. What difference does it make? And I went through all of them. Is that I don't have many people listening anyways. Could this be good to see who really is listening on a week-to-week basis that would reach out and say, hey, is there a reason why there wasn't an episode this week? Just all the different things started going through my head when I realized, and this is what's important, is that it's a learning process. I realized that it was just me not wanting to do the work. And it was realizing that I was negotiating with myself. So how many times have you not done something and didn't really realize that you negotiated with yourself to not do it? So consistency is just showing up. And when you think about it, we depend on people who are consistent in our lives. We want to know that something's always going to be there when we need it. What happens when the power goes out? Maybe there's a storm and there's a power go out. Everything kind of comes to a screeching halt because things that you just knew were always going to be there, meaning that every time I flip on a light switch, the power comes on. Water. Every time I turn on the faucet, water comes out because it's consistently there. There's no surprise when it comes out. There's surprise when it's not there. So think about in your life, what are things that you consistently do that are good, that you want to continue to do? Meaning that if you stop doing that, would you be surprised that you didn't do it today? I know I've used the example of me flossing my teeth, and the more I share it, the more I become aware when I start to negotiate that 30-second thing that I don't have time for, when we all know that we have time for things like that. So the key statement: most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they lack consistency. So success in athletics, faith, business, life, it's all built through consistent daily actions. So what does consistency really mean? So I'm going to define consistency for you. It's showing up repeatedly regardless of mood, motivation, or circumstances. we've talked about this before, is you have to distinguish between motivation, which is temporary, and consistency, which is reliable discipline. So that's the difference between, when you look at motivation, that's an emotion, that there's ebb and flow to that. Discipline is you've made the decision to do it no matter how you feel. And doing little things over and over, so consistently, builds discipline. Discipline's a skill. I would have to say some people, they're born with it. They're locked in. They'll do it. You don't have to ask them twice. Now, I will challenge those people. Do they have discipline in every aspect of their life? Probably not. There's certain places some people are really disciplined in, and there's certain places that people aren't. It's human nature. So what I want you to think about is, what is the one area that you are really disciplined in and you're really proud of, almost to the point where people recognize that level of discipline? Now, on the flip side, what are areas in your life that you rely on motivation in order to do it? There's a difference. And that area that you're relying on motivation to do something, is it worth developing a skill of discipline in that area? Some, they may not be that important. Others, they probably are. You just lack the discipline, or even the want to, or the why you need to do it regularly. So strength training, film study, skill repetition, reaching out to clients, doing your laundry, doing the dishes, picking things up around the house. What are some of those things that you need to do and develop a good weekly habit and a weekly discipline to get those done? The other thing could be in how you react to people. I'm in a mastermind with dads, and it's great. And if you're ever looking for something, and this may resonate with you, is that it's the Dad's Edge community. And so I've been a part of that on and off probably for the last 8 years or so. Most recently for the past, I think 2, maybe 3. But it's a great place to find like-minded guys who are working to develop the discipline in being a good dad and a good husband, because those are skills as well. Most people aren't born as a good husband or a good father. You have to develop the skill, and you have to want to. So the compounding effect. So consistency compounds over time. So again, things in your life that you want to make sure are consistent, that would be interest in your bank account. That would be consistent growth in your 401k. Those are all things that are exciting. You don't want consistent downturn, because if you're consistently losing money, you're going to move your money somewhere else. So again, think about all these different things and different elements in different areas of your life. So the compounding effect. So small daily actions create larger long-term outcomes. 1 intense workout versus 100 steady workouts. Studying once versus daily preparation. And this is one that I would say, if you think about life in general, it's these small things that accumulate over time that creates the benefit that you're looking for. Studying, tasks, anything that you may see, if you do a little bit every day, that makes preparing for the study, for the test, preparing for whatever you are, a lot less stressful than if you have to cram everything in the last minute. Some people strive that dopamine hit from panic. I don't thrive on that. It's worse for me. So for me, it's easier to panic daily than to wait and panic at the very end. So just think about the things that you need to develop slowly over time. Again, doing these episodes. So we've talked about it. I don't have a ton of downloads here, but by showing up and being consistent and delivering a message every single week, I don't know which one will hit and become viral, if one will hit and become viral, but I do know that the consistency is something I can be proud of because I showed up even when the motivation wasn't there. It's an element in my life of doing this episode is teaching me. It's reinforcing me as I'm sharing these thoughts with you. It is going back in my brain about the importance of consistency and doing things over and over. So, illustration 1% everyday concept. We've discussed that over and over and over. Is that just be 1% better every day? The people that go to the gym, and this is a good analogy as well, and they just go hardcore for a week. They're completely sore. They may have injured themselves to the point where they never want to go back. But if you just start showing up and say, I'm going to go to the gym for 15 minutes today, you're going to put on your shoes, you're going to put on your outfit, and you're going to show up, you're going to go to the gym, you're going to do something. Or even if you don't go to the gym, if you just go outside and you say, I'm going to walk for 10 minutes. Once you get out there, that's the hard part. Walking out the front door is the hardest part of a workout. Once you're there, the 10 minutes go by pretty easy. And usually you negotiate like, well, I'm here. Why don't I just add another 5 minutes? But if you don't want to and say, look, it's all I can do to get to 10 minutes, then you get to 10 minutes and you come back in. But commit to yourself to go out and do that every day. And what happens over time, that's going to compound and say, I walk 10 minutes a day, every day for a month. Holy smokes, I feel better. I'm in better shape. So now when you go to 15 minutes or even double it and go to 20 minutes every day, it's not as difficult. It's just like, well, I'm just adding 10 minutes to my normal routine. What's another 10 minutes? And then also you won't be worn out. You'll be building up to that. So if there's any young people listening, or if you're in a position where you want to start saving, it's the same concept for consistency, is just start saving a little bit every day and say, every month, I'm going to add $10 to what I'm saving. Again, as you go to the end of the year, now you've started saving another $120 to what you had normally saved. Over time, that's going to grow. So the players who improve, or the people who improve most, are the ones that do the most boring things consistently. That's everything in life. The discipline usually equals boring. People who have their diet dialed in, that are in great shape. I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos, working with Deuce and trying to help him get his nutrition tightened up. I need to get my nutrition tightened up in our training. Most of these people say they get tired of eating the same thing over and over every day, but they know in order to perform the way they want to perform, they're okay doing that. They do add some variety, try different flavors, but from a consistency standpoint, that's what they try to do. Now, I will say, is the boring things, that's what wears on your discipline and wears on your motivation. So the motivation comes in when you see the physical changes when you alter your diet. The discipline kicks in is once you get to where you want to be, not letting up, because the things that got you here will keep you here. But once you start negotiating, say, well, I've lost the 10 pounds that I want to lose, so it's going to be okay if I add a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Well, what happens over time is a little bit of this and a little bit of that becomes twice as much of a little bit of this. And then you back to the 10 pounds that you lost, you've gained that back. You've possibly even gained more. Excuse me. So one of the other areas with consistency is around faith. And this is something that is really challenging because it's faith. It's hard to see until you really start to strip things away. And there's evidences of your faith everywhere. So faith grows through consistent practices. So prayer, scripture reading, fellowship. Spiritual growth is rarely dramatic. It's normally incremental. So Galatians 6:9, this is a really powerful verse that I need to remind myself of daily. And I hope this will help you as well. in this idea of consistency. Let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. So harvest comes after consistent planting. So let's go back. Let us not grow weary of doing good. So how many times and I did an episode about why do I bother? So you're doing good over and over, but nobody notices. Nobody gives you the attaboy. Nobody treats you the way you're treating them. How many of those things over time wear on you and you just say, well, why bother? What does it matter? It's discipline. Discipline in treating other people well. It's hard. It's so difficult because other people don't treat you well. Other people don't treat other people well. Turn on the news. You just see constant battle of people battling people. And so you say, well, why bother? You have to bother. If everybody does good and they do not grow weary of doing good, this will be a wonderful place here on earth. Here's the downside. We get in the way. The human spirit gets in the way because we do look for motivation. We do look for gratitude. Well, not really gratitude. We look for acknowledgement. We look for recognition. It's our human nature. And it's so hard to do good because doing good is doing good. And Lou Holtz has a quote out, and I should have written it down, but it's like, there's never a wrong time to do the right thing. And there's never a right time to do the wrong thing. I think I may have gotten it right. It may be backwards, but it's the same thing. Is there's never a wrong time to do what's right. So doing good in due season, we will reap. That due season may be after we've gone on to our eternal reward. That's okay. We know the world is not here to reward you. It's here to, it's an ugly place, but it can be a beautiful place as well if you don't grow weary of doing good. So why do people struggle with consistency? We've talked about this. You wait for motivation, perfectionism. So what is the challenge with perfectionism? It's impossible. I'm not saying try to be perfect, strive to have perfection in something. You also have to be okay with good, because good gets you started. Perfectionism will keep you in a prison because you never would want to bring it out because it's just not good enough. And is it perfectionism because you're concerned with it, or is it perfectionism because you're worried about what other people will think that, well, Jeff put that out and it's not perfect? That plagued me for a long time. And what happened is as I strengthened my walk with Jesus and understand that he's not expecting me to be perfect because it's impossible, but the more I strive to be perfect, the more I see my imperfections, the more grace I'm willing to give other people. I used to be critical when people would make a mistake in an email or something like that. And then I realize I make so many of those mistakes all the time. Like, who am I to cast judgment on you from having a misspelling in an email? It's an email, whoopee-doo. And some people just go sideways over things like that. And I understand you need to be careful. You need to really look through things, but sometimes it happens. So get over it. We have to understand that if I'm going to throw stones, that I'm not perfect either. Jesus talked about that. He who has no sin cast the first stone. Well, everybody drop the rocks because nobody can say that they're not guilty of doing something wrong in a regular basis. So trying to do too much too fast. So we talked about that. Lack of a clear goal. That's another challenge, is that if you don't have a clear goal, you just go all over it. And then you don't realize that, well, I missed the mark or I exhausted myself because I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And that's why setting small incremental goals creates consistency and success over time. We talked about starting small, creating systems, focus on the process. This is another area that I would challenge everybody is really get more in love with the process than the outcome. Because with the process and you focusing on the discipline of doing something over and over, the outcome will happen. Now, if you haven't set a clear goal or a realistic goal, the process won't get you there. But over time, if you allow yourself to be consistent, to fall in love with the process, there will be a very positive outcome to that if what you're focusing on is supposed to be good. Track your effort. You have to have a scoreboard. Otherwise, how do you know that you're progressing in the direction that you want to go in? So that's where you can journal, you can habit track, you can have an accountability partner. And I'll tell you this much, like I said with the Dad's Edge, is sometimes you have to pay for accountability because the people closest to you may be struggling with accountability as well. But if you're in a group of people who are there, who are requesting accountability, it's easier for you to ask for accountability because they're going to ask that back. And then there's that two-way street of you both holding each other accountable. And when you have to hold somebody else accountable, you're paying more attention to the things that you're doing. So that way you're not falling short. And if you don't have to pay, I remember when I first, after high school, I had a group and that we were all about getting healthy, losing weight, getting stronger, all of those things. And we were consistent because if somebody didn't show up, it wasn't even an option. I mean, you had to be really sick and just not able to go if you were to miss a workout or if you failed in tracking your food. So there's just so many things that you can work on and expect imperfect days. Missing one day isn't failure, quitting is. And then the one thing that I would remind you around missing one day isn't a failure. It's not. The second day and then the third day. And I know me, this could just be me, but I don't think so because I've heard of books and other people talk about it in other podcasts, that quitting becomes a compound effect. And quitting can also be consistent, meaning that I negotiate today and I would have said, okay, I'm done. I'm not going to do today. What would I have done next week? Or I would have done one next week. And then the next time that I didn't feel like it and didn't have the motivation to record an episode, would that time to say no become easier? And then after that, would that next time become easier? The answer is yes, because yo-yo diets are that way. I can be dialed in for a while, and then one day, one cheat meal can throw me off. That next thing I know is within several weeks, I'm off the plan altogether. So the difference between winners and losers is often consistency. People trust people who are reliable. We've talked about that in the past. People trust people who show up daily. Do you show up daily for your family? Do you show up daily for your spouse, for your community, for your friends? Or are you that inconsistent person that can't be depended on? So what I'm going to ask you to do is find one thing in your life that you want to work on. And I just realized that here we are. This will come out March 16th on YouTube, March 17th on podcast platform. And I had committed that with each episode, I was going to have an action item. And I don't think I've done that consistently. One, I haven't had it written down. So just out of sight, out of mind. That's why you have to track things. So I'm going to ask you is find something that you want to be consistent on. Use me as an accountability partner. I need the trust. I need other people, because once I am helping them and holding them accountable, I do a lot better. I do better when I'm in a community of consistency. So with all that being said, I hope you have a great day. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And I'm Jeff Forrester, and this is Pathways to Greatness.